am now going to be introducing our next speaker, who is Danielle Ludwell. Danny is an English teacher from Bristol Free School, and she was one of the centres who joined the Lit in Colour Pioneers programme in our first pilot year. So we're very, very happy to have her join us this afternoon, and she's going to share some of her reflections on what it was like to be a pioneer. So welcome, Danny.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited to be here and just kind of share my experience of teaching Boys Don't Cry and the Belonging anthology poems.
Oh, brilliant. Fantastic. Thank you. So why don't we just sort of start off, and maybe you can tell everyone a little bit about why you chose to apply to be a Lit in Colour pioneer last year?
Yeah, of course. So becoming a pioneer was the same reason I became a teacher. I wanted to expose children to another world, educate children about other cultures, perspective, emotions, and, advocate for and encourage our students to feel empathetic, frustrated. Because obviously when you read these either plays, poems, novels, we all have a feeling, we all feel something. And I just kind of want to encourage that further, but also for them to explain why they feel that way. So to say, I don't like the character, okay, but why don't you? I think with being a pioneer, it's about ensuring that all our students are seen and heard. And that's what really makes me passionate about, this pioneer scheme, is I know from the books that we are studying and the 300 books we were given, students feel seen and feel heard.
That's brilliant. And I thought that was really interesting with what Tanika was saying about the opportunity for perhaps some challenge. So we were talking there about the context of the British Empire, so that could be one thing that comes up, but in a way, like you're saying there about literature invoking a feeling, you've almost got an opportunity in an English literature context, which is perhaps almost at a slight safe distance because it's a character or it's a sort of literary text, perhaps to confront some more challenging topic, challenging concepts and sort of prevailing kind of ideas and thoughts in a way that you might not necessarily be able to do in other subjects. So I'm totally sort of in agreement with you about that. So you have started teaching Boys Don't Cry and Belonging already, or you haven't started? Okay. And so when did you start? Did you start them right from the September term? Where did you put them in your teaching timetable?
So last year, I didn't teach Boys Don't Cry, but this year I started it at the beginning of January. But Belonging anthologies we taught last year.
And why was it that you went with Boys Don't Cry and the poetry anthology? What was it about those texts which
really sorry, I need to turn my light on. Sorry,
that's okay. Go wave your arms in the air so people think there's still somebody in the room.
Right, let's start again.
That's all right. I was just asking why it was that you chose Boys Don't Cry and the Belonging collection. Why was it those two that you went with in the end?
Well, with Boys Don't Cry, it's very accessible for all our students, and with our cohort as well, the plot is quite relatable for many of them, particularly when we look at the LGBTQ plus theme running throughout. And in year 10, so this has been actually the best part of teaching Boys Don't Cry, I've had students share their experiences of coming out. And it's invoked like the most amazing discussions. And unfortunately, there are some students who don't necessarily understand the community, and in a very healthy way, those are being challenged, and they're able to voice their own opinions. And then I didn't realize it was like that. Interesting. And when we look at the history, as you're saying about context, talk about the history of gay rights and how it was only in the last couple of years that you could marry legally. And then with the anthology poems, which are brilliant, by the way, like really, really great. I like, and as the students like, is how it's all the way through a different time period. So it's not just one section, we're going throughout. And it's how belonging isn't just about a feeling, about belonging to a place, to someone within yourself. And for the students, again, that's relatable because we all want to feel like we belong somewhere, whether it's someone or somewhere.
It must have been incredibly powerful to have been able to sort of share that experience with your students. Literally, I felt a little lump come in my throat when you mentioned that Boys Don't Cry had kind of enabled some of your students in a kind of safe way to kind of have that kind of conversation. That must have been really kind of profound.
And it's so rewarding. And that's why it's so important, one, being an educator, but also being a teacher. And it's our duty to, ensure our students feel that way. And that's why these poems and Boys Don't Cry are brilliant for it. It just allows those discussions in a healthy way, and to ideas, again, keep it really healthy. There's no kind of, going over the top, and no one's being rude, it's just listening and just our ideas.
Fab. So if we step away from the text a little bit, so obviously the sort of program, there is the kind of provision of the set text and the provision of the library donation from Penguin, but also obviously kind of there's more around the program than just that. So do you think that the Pioneers program, do you think it's helped you in sort of diversifying your curriculum and bringing that learning into your school? How is that kind of how is being part of that Pioneer program helped you in that regard?
I think it's great. I think as educators, we're constantly learning ourselves, but sometimes we don't always, unfortunately, have the time to do it. So when the resources are given to you, there are events available, it makes it easier just to take your teaching up a notch. And it is, as I've said previously, it's our duty for our young people to make sure that they have this new information available. And I really like how with the books, the children's books, again, amazing. I thank you so much for that. We had World Book Day today, so celebrated, and I've never seen year 8 fight for books before. You had to tell them, like, calm down, guys, like, you're all going to look at them, like stop, it's fine. And that's why this is just so great. And I just think if everyone can join into this Pioneer scheme, like, they should do it.
Oh, fantastic. And that's funny because it reminded me, it must have been the last time we were able to actually do things in person, so it must have been like 2019 or something. We had our first student conference at Friends Meeting House in London by Euston Station, and we are fairly, touch wood, fingers crossed, everything crossed, confident that we'll be able to rerun that event again this year. So that's another exciting thing to keep your ears open for. But I think it was on a Wednesday or a Thursday, and it finished at sort of 3 o'clock. And then at about 5:30, 6 o'clock on the same day, we got an email from a school who said, we left the conference, we crossed the road to go to Euston Square, and the kids were all like, can we go to WH Smith's before we got on the train? We've got like 15 minutes before the train. And they insisted on going to the bookshop, and they insisted on buying books, which some of your kids from Bristol Free School were there actually at that event.
Yeah, they were.
I don't know if you were there, but I think I remember. Yeah, I remember them. And it was some of the kids from going back up to Birmingham on the train from Euston, and the teacher emailed and said, I've never seen that before. It's like the power of being inspired, I
this is why I think it is just so important to have a range of texts, and the texts that you are given are brilliant for those reasons. There's range, and really they're for any student. We're not kind of pigeonholed, like, oh, actually it's just for this sort of student. It's like there's such a range, and that's what the students need.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that came out really strongly from the Pioneers program. Again, it's that the text work across the ability profile, the text work across the kind of geographical profile. We did have a conversation at one point. I won't be kind of sort of naming names or anything of that nature. We said, well, our cohort is 100% white, so I was like, well, then your cohort 100% needs to have some diversity in their curriculum. So it really is a program, hopefully, that will find something in there for absolutely everyone. So just before we go, because again, I carry on chatting about this forever, if you could maybe give a bit of advice or give some recommendations of your experience of the program to those people who are with us this afternoon, if they're sort of thinking about maybe joining up, what would you say to them?
I'll just do it. Like, I don't understand why anyone would think otherwise. It's so great. You have these amazing books, the best resources. So for Boys Don't Cry, so that it was my first year teaching it, the resources by Excel were brilliant, and I was able just to use them. Everything's well thought out. The students engage fully. I have students who typically don't like reading. However, year 10, I walk in, and the first thing they said is like, Miss, can we read? We have to read. And if I have them like in my ear begging to read. So absolutely do it. Go to the event, enjoy it. If you have any questions, like, email. They're really, really helpful. I couldn't recommend it enough.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. It's been absolutely lovely having you join us this afternoon.
Thank you.
I'm so inspired by the work that you and your colleagues at Bristol Free School are doing, and we really appreciate your time this afternoon.